All right, let's get into some problems. We're going to start basic, and each time just get a little more difficult by throwing on another piece to it. Remember, we talked about this with equations. It helps to move the smaller coefficient over to the larger to avoid having to work with negatives. You don't have to solve it that way. That's just what Miss LaRosa does, because if I don't want to work with, because if I don't have to work with negatives, I don't want to. And that's okay. That's okay. All right, so we've got the steps on the side to help us out, to support us, just in case we need them. Hopefully we're getting to the point where we don't really need them anymore, though, because we've been doing this, again, since January. We've been doing this for quite a while. Start off with that river of love. We have an equation, or we have an inequality. Our sides are not the same, but I have to keep doing the same things because I don't want to make my inequality balanced. I don't want to turn it into an equation or make my inequality flip directions and the other side gets more difficult or it gets heavier. We need to make sure we're still doing the same thing on both sides to keep it unbalanced in the right way. So first we need to combine our like terms, our variables over the inequality. So if I see here, I have 3n and 2n for my variables. Which one do I like to move again? I like to move the smaller one. So how am I going to get rid of that positive 2n? Subtract 2n on both sides. Subtract 2n on both sides. If I have 3 n's and I take away 2, I've got 1 n left. If you want to write that 1 out front, you can. You don't have to. It's one of those invisible ones that we talk about, that math people, we don't usually write because we're lazy. Then I want to bring down my plus 5. Those 2 n's eliminate. Bring down my 7. Does my sign flip? No, I did not multiply or divide by a negative. So it's good. It's going to stay the same. Now that I've combined my variables together, I want to draw my box around my variable and my coefficient. Remember, I want to save them for last. I want to save them for last. I need to go through sad meg. So first I need to subtract or add my constant, which here is the 5. I want to start on the same side as my variable because I'm trying to take everything away from the variable. So how am I going to take away that plus 5? Yeah, subtract 5 on both sides. I bring down my 1n. My 5's eliminate. And what's 7 minus 5? 2. Do I flip my sign? It's a negative 5. I did not multiply or divide though, so my sign stays the same. My sign stays the same. The coefficient here was 1, so there's no multiplying or dividing to do. We just want to graph it now. Are we going to use an open or a closed circle here? A closed circle. Remember, if you've got that line underneath, that means you're going to close the circle because your answer includes that number. And then what direction will I shade? To the right. N is greater than 2, so that means it needs to be all the numbers that are bigger than 2. I changed the number line for these notes, so hopefully they're not all messed up like they were last time. And again, you can check it in the calculator to make sure you've got the right answer by doing the exact same thing we did with equations. I would tell my calculator that n is equal to 2, and then type in each side separate. So we've got 3n plus 5, and we have 2n plus 7. Again, I see my sides are the same because that's the number that's going to be the tipping point for it to go one way or the other. N needs to be bigger than 2, to make my left side bigger than my right. So let's say I make my n 22. 22 is bigger than 2. And I see it makes on my calculator, my left side is greater than my right side. So you'll type it in and it looks like an equation because both sides are the same. But if you change into different numbers, the inequality will still hold true as long as it's within that solution set. Let's take a look at another one. Oh boy, Miss La Rosa, what you doing to us putting these negatives in here? I'm trying to challenge you a little bit. Some of us need to be challenged. Remember, River of Love always goes through the middle, what separates the two different sides. Before it was the equations, now it's the inequalities to make sure we're doing the same thing on both sides. We need to keep them balanced. So again, we're still needing to go through combining our like terms over the variable. Here's my variable on that side. There's my variable on that side. Combine those things and then go through SAD/MEG to solve. I want to see how y'all can do with this on your own. Go ahead, pause the video and come back to me to see how you did. Hopefully you got -4 is less than x. Here, I divided both sides by a +4. Yes, that 16 was negative, but I didn't divide both sides by a -16. It's got to be whatever's happening to both sides that's negative. So here my answer is going to be -4. Keep your sign less than x. Don't worry about graphing that one. If you got questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to take it up another level. We're going to combine like terms before we solve. Again, we're doing the exact same steps. It's just now we're adding one more to it. Now I see I have multiple variables on one side that I need to combine. Now I need to go through and combine my like terms before I can go through and solve. So like we said, this side, I just have a variable term and a constant term. I cannot combine those because one does not have a variable with it. So I can't change anything on that side. That's going to stay the same. On this side, I see I have an 8x and a -5x. So what's that going to be if I combine it? 8x minus 5x. 3x. And I need to make sure I bring down my +16. Can't forget about that. I didn't divide or multiply by a negative, so my sign's going to stay the same. So first we got to combine those like terms on each side. Now we do what we did last time. We're going to bring those variables together over the inequality. Which variable should we move? The smaller one, which is that -2x. Again, you can move the 3 to this side. It's just you're going to have a negative coefficient with your variable. Nothing wrong with it, just a different way of doing it. But I'm going to bring that 2x. Doing the opposite, it's negative, so I need to add 2x to both sides. My 2x's eliminate. I bring down my 1. I add, I get 5x. Bring down my +16. Again, we didn't do anything. We didn't multiply or divide by a negative, so our inequality sign is going to stay the same. Go ahead, pause the video, finish the rest out on your own. We should be able to solve like this. We've been doing that since January 28. All right. Hopefully you drew that box around your coefficient, your variable, to remind yourself, I saved that for last. I'm going to subtract 16 on both sides. I get negative 15 is greater than 5x. Oops, I forgot to do my checks. And then with the last step, divide both sides by a positive 5. Yes, that 15 is negative. That just means my answer is going to be negative. You do not flip your sign because both sides did not divide by a negative. It's like that last problem we did. Only if you multiply or divide both sides by the negative do you flip. Now this one we want to graph. Open or closed circle. Open. There's no line underneath. So here's negative 3. There's my open circle. What direction do we shade? If negative 3 is greater than x. X needs to be smaller than that negative 3. So I'm going to shade to the left. Remember, if you like that trick to show you which way to point, you have to write x first. If my x and negative 3 flip places, my inequality has to flip directions. Here I still see it's pointing at x. That's still the smaller number. The alligator's eating negative 3, so it means the same thing. It's just written backwards. Because it opens up, or it points to the left, we shade to the left. Go ahead, pause, and try this next one on your own. Here, you're going to have to combine like terms on both sides, which is a little bit trickier. Pause the video. Good luck to you. If you need help, let us know. We can support you while you're working through this before you try to solve it. For this problem, you should get x is less than or equal to 4. Pause the video, double check, make sure your work matches mine, or make sure that you've got work in your calculator. We've got a lot of people who are not showing work. A lot of people not showing work on the summatives. Please make sure that you've got it so you can get your full points for that. Now we're going to move on to the same thing. Variables on both sides, but now we've got the distributive property. What operation is the distributive property? Multiplication. Remember, those parentheses mean to multiply. And I can just multiply times the first term. I've still got people doing that. You need to multiply that first term times everything on the inside. So draw your rainbows to help you. 5 times x gives me 5x. Plus 5 times 2 gives me 10. And I keep the same thing on the other side. 3x minus 2. There's nothing fancy, nothing special there. Keep my sign the same. Now I need to combine my variables because there's no combining like terms on each side. It's just a variable and a constant, variable and a constant. So none of that. Now we need to combine variables over the inequality. So I've got a 5x and a 3x. Again, it doesn't matter which one you move. To prove it, I'm going to move the big one this time. I'm going to move 5x. So I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides just to prove to y'all that it doesn't matter which way you do it. They cancel each other out. I bring down my 10. 3x minus 5x is going to give me a negative 2x. But then I bring down that minus 2. Put a box around my coefficient, my variable. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. 10 plus 2 gives me 12. Is greater than or less than negative 2x. And now we do what? We're going to divide by a negative 2. What happens when we divide by a negative? Our sign's going to flip directions. This side was positive, this side was negative, and now they're flipping. Now this side's going to be negative, this side's going to be positive. So that's why our sign flips. What's 12 divided by negative 2? Negative 6. So now we want to graph. Try the graphing on your own. We haven't tried any graphing on our own yet. Pause the video and see if you can do it. Hopefully you've got your closed circle on -6. There's a line underneath that tells me to close my circle. And here I see that -6 is less than or equal to x. The alligator's eating the x. That means that's got more. So that means I need all the numbers bigger than x. Or if you rewrite it, x is greater than or equal to -6. It points to the right, so you shade to the right. Again, that only works if you do the variable first. That only works if you do the variable first. Y'all know what I'm going to say? Pause the video. Try the next one on your own. Good luck. For those of y'all who started playing the video because you don't want to try it on your own, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give you a hint. You see you've got your parentheses. So that means you're going to need to do the distributive property. But there's no number in front of your parentheses. What should be going there? That's an invisible 1. And again, now, this invisible 1's special. This invisible 1 is special because, my students, you need to keep that negative in front with that number. You've got to keep it with that term. So it's a -1 that you're multiplying, that you're distributing. -1 times x is going to give me a -1x. -1 times a -2 is going to give me a +2. And then I keep my 5x. Now you need to combine those like terms before you solve. So now that you've got that little hint, that little help, if you hadn't done anything yet, try it now. If you hadn't done this correctly and you're just checking, go back and fix that work and then try to solve, okay? Try it again, let me know how it goes. Pause your video. Hopefully you got x is greater than 3. There was no variable on both sides of the inequality. 20 minus 6 is just 14. So you only had the variable on that one side. So this is really just the distributive property with variables on one side, but that's all right. Would this be an open or closed circle situation? Open circle, and you would shade to the right. Nice job, nice job. All right, the last problem we have, the granddaddy of them all, combining like terms and the distributive property in one problem. Oh my goodness, we can do this. We can do this. Again, I want to challenge some of you guys. This one's a little bit different. This one, the instructions say to identify each value of x that makes the inequality true. Remember how we've talked about there's a range of answers, a whole bunch of numbers that are going to work. After you solve this, graph it to help you figure out which of these answers work for this inequality, okay? I want you to pause this, try it on your own, and then play the video to see how you did, okay? Really give it a good try first before you watch the video to see how to solve it, okay? Just solve it first and graph it, then we'll go through how to answer a question like this, because I bet there's going to be one similar to it on your summative and on the SOL. All right, so hopefully you've drawn your river of love. There's no steps here, but that's okay, we got this. We're going to take this one side at a time. One side at a time. Looking at just the left, what can we do here? Combine those like terms. We've got a 3x and we've got a plus 7x. If I combine those, 3x plus 7x, what does that give me? 10x. Don't forget to keep that minus 8. Keep your sign. And now the other side. We see parentheses, that means to distribute. Multiply times everything inside. 2 times 4x should give you 8x. And 2 plus 2 gives you, or 2 times 2, excuse me. 2 times 2 gives you 4. Boom. We combined our like terms. We did the distributive property. Now we're going to bring our variables together. So I've got a 10x and an 8x. Does it matter which one I move? It doesn't matter. Miss La Rosa sure does have a preference. I like to work smarter, not harder. There you go. Now you can tell a little better that it's green and blue. Miss La Rosa likes to work smarter, not harder. I'm going to move the smaller one to the bigger one. It's a positive 8x, so I need to subtract or give each side a negative 8x. 10 minus 8 gives me 2x. Bring down my negative 8. I'm subtracting on both sides, so I don't flip. Subtracting, I don't flip. Bring down my 4. Protect my coefficient, my variable. Sad Meg to get rid of my constant. Add 8 to both sides. Bring down your 2x. Then divide both sides by 2. So we get x is greater than 6. Open or closed circle? Open circle. In what direction will we shade? X is greater than 6, so that means all these numbers bigger than 6 are going to work. So now that we have our answer, we have the shading, we need to choose all values, or each value, that means more than one. Each means more than one, that makes the inequality true. So we're going to want to substitute each of these numbers in to see if it's greater than 6. So I'm going to use a pencil to kind of help me out so I can keep looking at that. Keep using that as a reference. So let's see. If I fill in negative 8, is negative 8 greater than 6? Nope. So that number does not work. My next number is negative 5. Is negative 5 greater than 6? What about negative 2? Is negative 2 going to be greater than 6? No. Is 0 greater than 6? No. Is 4 greater than 6? No. This next one's where it gets tricky. Now we've got to know and understand what these signs mean. Is 6 greater than 6? They're equal to each other, but is it greater than itself? No. If it had the line underneath like that, x or 6 is greater than or equal to 6, then we would choose it. If that was a closed circle, then we would choose it. But 6 is not greater than itself. A lot of people are going to get that wrong because they're going to see 6 and, oh yeah, 6 is right, because that's what I got when I solved. But you have to know and understand what these things mean. 6 is not greater than itself, so you cannot pick it. But 10 is greater than 6, yes. That would be an answer choice. 15 is greater than 6. Yes, that would be an answer choice. Really take the time, rewrite that inequality with that blank, and fill in every single number to see, is this true? If it's not true, it's not an answer. I hope these notes have been helpful to you. There's a Kahoot or a quizzes link that you can use to help you practice, and let us know if you guys have any questions. Have a good day.